Hey everyone, it's Rich here, co-founder and CEO of Vergo. Here to talk about our revenue forecasting and project analytics module. In a nutshell, Vergo is a plugin for your construction ERP that enables you to do things that wouldn't be necessarily possible in the ERP itself or even in Excel. And I think forecasting is a great example of that. So today you might be doing in a spreadsheet, maybe every month, a high-level basic revenue forecast, but it might be constrained by how sophisticated you can make it, because with so many projects going on of different shapes and sizes, creating those assumptions can be like really challenging. And also just like having the time to go back into your historical data to come up with these like project analytics, which might help you for future projects that you're bidding on and estimating on, to really dig into the weeds and say, is this a good project we're working on? Is this a good project we're bidding on? And to hopefully make you more money. So I'll dive straight into the presentation and then go into the demo shortly after. So the three main problems that we're solving here with our revenue forecasting and project analytics module is we're trying to get you out of Excel and into a more sophisticated tool, because whilst Excel is good, for something as complicated as a revenue forecast, especially in the construction industry, it's not necessarily possible unless you're a data scientist to produce those complex forecasts which are ever changing. Projects are either finishing, they're starting, they might be on pause. This is a really complicated mathematical problem which is not so easy to do in spreadsheets. So that leads on to the second thing, which is moving away from very high level swag type assumptions for a forecast and moving into a much more detailed data driven set of assumptions. So the reason why obviously you would have high level assumptions today is just because of how time consuming and hard it is to actually go back into all of your ERP data, which is actually quite famously hard to pull good reporting from without SQL knowledge. And in giving that superpower to have very sophisticated assumptions, which I'll show you in the demo. And then the last one is, forecasting is really a form of data science. And if you're a data scientist doing this exercise, you would probably create like Python scripts. You'd be using specific tools and software for data science forecasting. And Excel doesn't allow you to do that, and neither does your ERP. So what we've done is actually integrated into our system in a very user-friendly way tools that data scientists are really using to do this kind of analysis. So I'll jump straight into the product demo shortly, but just to kind of like highlight really quickly how we do the integration. So it takes us not long at all, a couple of days to integrate with your construction ERP. We integrate with all the major ones, and we can actually pull information out in real time as things are happening. So every time a new AP invoice entry hits, we get fresh data. Every time a change order happens, every time a open commitment happens, like all that information is being ingested in real time into our system, which obviously means that every forecast you're looking at in here is taking into consideration all of that fresh, up-to-date information. If you do it in spreadsheets, obviously you have to constantly be downloading stuff, maybe run those like SQL queries, which is obviously super time consuming and pretty annoying to set up. So now I'm going to jump into the demo, and we're going to go into how you can set up your revenue forecast and then also do things like scenario analysis. Perfect. So just to ground us, what you're looking at is our forecasting module. We also have another module called WIP and cost projections, which if you use both together, there are some advantages. You obviously the fine-tuning the model and making it more powerful, but they do work independently of each other. So what you're seeing now is an example of a model set up for a construction company which has a bunch of projects which are active and also has some projects in the pipeline which might be closing. So what's really key here is to think about when you're doing revenue forecasting, you're essentially looking at unbilled contracts, unbilled revenue from your contract and how that will be distributed over time. So the way we do it is we review all of your historical data and we identify what we call tags. So in this particular company's example, some of the tags we identified is that some projects are commercial and some projects are residential, and some projects are working on high-rise buildings and some working on low-rise buildings. And then third, there's kind of these different divisions or departments that work on them. But depending on your company, we might identify different tags. For example, a specific client that's really big that you do lots of projects for could be a tag that's worth looking at. Another example of a tag could be a division or a department or a cost center that projects are being billed against. So essentially what we do is we go through all the data, and then what we're looking at is for your active projects, we're trying to find lookalikes to projects you've done in the past that can help us see how we're going to distribute that revenue over time on a bell curve that makes sense based upon all this historical information. And because most of our customers have been, in the game for, 10 plus years, we have tons of data that we're able to pull in and do pretty accurate forecasting as a result of this. We also can do some pretty cool stuff by looking at, for the type of project we're looking at, what are the average amount of change orders for that type of project? What are the average amount of cost changes for that type of project? Because as we all know, when you start a project and it says $5 million contract size, the likelihood that there's going to be a bunch of change orders and maybe the cost and the contract size is going to increase by 25% is really high. But the question is what should the number be? Should it be 25%? Should it be 20%? Should it be 15%? We do that work for you. So we already do the analysis, look back in all of your projects you've ever done, and we help you make that estimate. You don't necessarily need to do it yourself. But if you ever wanted to override our estimates, you can do that. So that's kind of how the model is set up for active projects. And then second of all is the pipeline projects. So obviously what can have a massive impact to your forecast is projects that haven't started yet. So in 3 months' time, in 6 months' time, you might know that the project's coming down the pike and you want to include that in your forecast. So what we do is we give you the tools to do that. So you can add in here any project that you want that you think is going to happen. And you can even create recurring projects. So in this case, for example, we always know there's these small little projects that we get every single month, and we don't necessarily want to have to add every single one into the forecast. So you can just create a placeholder that basically says we'll always have every month a 750K project, for example, and that helps normalize the model out before it becomes like an active project. Similarly, we can add in those tags. So you can say this is a commercial project, this is a high-rise or low-rise, and whatever, this is a maintenance type project. So once the model's set up, which honestly doesn't take too long at all, once you kind of like go through the different tags and we make sure that's all good, you can then jump to the forecast, which as you can see is now forecasting out all of the revenue remaining on those projects. So you can see down here a graph which has all the kind of like high level. And this is obviously really helpful to see where, okay, maybe on a specific tag, so let's just take our commercial projects, maybe you start to realize that we don't really have anything coming in at the end of the year. The sales team, the project managers might want to start thinking about, okay, we want more commercial projects, so we don't really have any lined up. Or if you want to get more granular, you could basically say, okay, well, it looks like in this particular month, in April, our maintenance projects, we have like a lot of demand. Things are going to really ramp up. We might have to hire some more people or bring some more people on to cover that demand. So you can get pretty granular into the cuts of how you see this information. And now jumping back to the scenario analysis. So obviously in this first version, we set up everything using averages. So the averages that we've inferred from our historical data. But if you wanted to add other scenarios, you can. So if you wanted to kind of override what we're telling you with your own assumptions, you could obviously do that as well. And then you can see how the 3 different versions look in this graph. And you can see down here how that looks in the different scenarios. And ideally, over time, as you're using the tool, you're starting to learn as well yourself how the characteristics of certain projects look, and then we can start to hard code some of these assumptions in to make it more and more accurate over time when we're doing that kind of like forecast versus variance analysis. So that's on the forecasting side. Pretty cool tool that's obviously the whole point in this is to pull you out of the Excel and give you these kind of like tools that you're probably not used to using before to make your forecast more and more accurate. So management can basically say, I actually trust this information a lot more than maybe the high level assumptions that we've been doing today. I'm now going to move to our Insights tab. So this is a pretty cool feature that really is aimed at helping you understand the data and then making change with your team in order to actually improve things like your margins, only take on projects that you think are worthwhile, and so on. So in this section, we're looking at benchmark, and this is basically showing you, here's every single project manager that we have, and on 2 variables, let's rank them onto like a leaderboard. So the first variable is cash flow score. This means how quickly are they getting paid on their projects. So in some cases, you might have project managers that just don't really chase down the client to get that money, and as a result, it costs the business. The other thing could be cost estimates. So going back to like cost projections and the WIP, some project managers just may not be very good at estimating. And that means that you can use this leaderboard to really identify those people and train them up a bit and say, it's super important that you estimate accurately because it has all these knock-on impacts for our forecasting and everything else. So that's on the kind of project manager level. We also have the same on the job level. And then this is a pretty cool feature, but on a company level, as we are, building our customer base and finding other customers that might look like yours. For example, you might be an electrical contractor of a certain revenue range. If we have anyone else in our customer database, we can anonymously show you how you fare against them for things like cash flow and cost estimating as well. And then the last thing I wanted to go through today was our financial impacts module. So essentially what this is helping you with is identifying where you may be losing money essentially from things like AR and AP delays. So in a world where you're paying your vendors too soon before you've been paid, that's obviously real money that's coming out of your bank. And particularly if you already use a line of credit and you're having these dips in cash flow, it could have a material impact on your business. So this is like a quick, helpful analysis to say, on all these projects you've done and are currently working on, you're basically paying your vendors too early, or you're getting paid too late from your customers. And this can help you say to some of your customers, hey, compared to every other customer, you're the worst at paying us. Please pay us faster. We'll update our terms of conditions with you on payment terms. And that's going to actually, save you money, because if you're always forking out money too early or not getting paid early enough, that has a material impact. So you can basically change in here, if you have got a line of credit, I don't know what rate you pay, let's say 10% because rates are higher. This is a way of modeling the real impact of you basically not having money in your bank account when that might be unnecessary. So that kind of concludes our forecasting and analytics module demo. Going back to the presentation real quickly, we have some other modules which you might be interested in reviewing as well. We have our expense management and invoice automation module. The real purpose of those is to get data, job costing data into your ERP as quickly as possible. Again, heavily focused on making project managers' lives as easy as possible to approve invoices and to provide project coding for things like receipts. Then we have the cost projections and WIP module. That's all about getting those cost projections from the project managers and streamlining the WIP report process. And then obviously what we've just been through is the forecasting and analytics module. If you would like to jump on a personalized demo with myself or someone else from the team, please email me, rich@getvergo.com. We offer free trials, so if you are interested in playing around with what I've shown you today, playing around with a forecast and seeing how it could help your business, we offer a free trial for 30 days. It's a pretty simple process. We integrate with your ERP, takes a couple of days. We populate your forecast for you. You can play around with it as a team. Let me know for any questions over email, and excited to hopefully speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.